The S6 and the S6 Edge have a great 16 megapixel rear camera. The LG G4 has a great 16 megapixel rear camera as well. So which one's better? Well, let's find out. Before we do, if this is your first time here or in case you just can't remember, my name's Ash and you're watching C4A Tech. Let's get started. Let's jump right in. Here you see a bunch of pictures that have been shot with both the cameras on the S6 and an LG G4. If you notice, both read in a lot of detail. When you zoom in a lot, the S6 might just edge the G4 out ever so slightly. The main difference lies in the colors. The colors on the pictures shot with the Galaxy S6 are a little more vivid, whereas the ones shot with the G4 are more natural. Basically, the images shot with the S6 are going to be better to look at as they pop out, and the images shot with the G4 are going to be a little more natural. So that kind of boils down to personal preference. By the way, both phones have HDR. The S6 has live HDR, meaning you can see how your image will look before you actually shoot it. With the G4, there's no live HDR and it does take about a second for the HDR shot. The S6 does it instantly. Moving on, let's talk about panorama. The G4 shoots high resolution panoramas, meaning more detail in the pictures, but the S6 covers a lot more area, almost a full 360 from a stationary position. The Galaxy S6 also has a lot more modes available, but that being said, there are three areas where the G4 shines. Number one, the ability to shoot RAW. The G4 shoots DNG RAW, meaning you can play around with the pictures a lot more in post if you just want to get that right look. The S6 and the S6 Edge, on the other hand, at the time of shooting this video, do not have support for RAW. This point will soon become irrelevant as Samsung has promised to add support to shoot RAW pretty soon. Number two, the manual mode on the S6 lacks shutter speed controls. So say for example you want to shoot a fast moving subject, you're gonna get some motion blur. The G4 on the other hand will let you shoot it without any motion blur. You can actually get a much better shot than I just did because this picture is just for illustrative purposes. I went with the fastest shutter speed so as to not miss the shot. You could tone down the shutter speed, you could make it a little slower and also lower the ISO settings, and that should get you a better shot. Anyway, moving on, another example of where shutter speed controls might be advantageous would be in a low light setting. Now I have the exposure set to 8 seconds on my G4 and I have it mounted, meaning it's not going to be moving around. So you end up getting a shot like this. The S6 under the same conditions will have to crank up the ISO to get a usable shot, meaning this is what you're going to be seeing. A lot more noise. Number 3, low light. That's similar to what we just saw. And the low light, the S6 cranks up the ISO, whereas the G4 exposes a little longer, making better use of OIS. So anyway, if the S6 gets shutter speed control via a future update, this wouldn't be a point worth talking about at all. So now that I've mentioned 3 areas where the G4 performs better, let's talk about areas where I feel the S6 edges out the G4. Number 1, launching the camera app via double pressing the home key is just amazing. Yes, the G4 does let you open the camera app by double pressing the volume key, and it even lets you shoot a picture, but for that your phone needs to be, the screen needs to be turned off. With the S6 you can just, no matter what app you are in, just jump back, open up the camera app by double pressing the home key, and that's really convenient. Number 2, autofocus. Now check this out. As you can see, the G4 finds focus a little faster than the S6. Yep, there is a but again. When you shoot a picture, the G4 resets focus after each shot. So if your subject isn't right at the center of the scene, you'd have to tap again to focus before you take another shot. Generally with cameras on smartphones, if I want to get a shot, I might take a couple of shots because maybe I just moved a little bit or maybe my exposure was off or something like that. I like taking multiple shots, and here's this is a place where the S6 really helps. It works because once you get set focus, you can take multiple shots before the focus changes. That brings us to number 3, tracking autofocus. Again, very useful to keep your subject in focus throughout. The G4 sadly lacks this option. Now moving on to video, both the G4 and the S6 can shoot 4K video, and both are restricted by 5-minute limitations. I do find the footage shot with the G4 to be a little bit more stable. Barring that, the results are similar to what we've seen with still images. colors pop a bit with the S6 and are more natural on the G4. Now 4K and 16 megapixel pictures will result in large file sizes, and do note the G4 is the only one that supports microSD. Now let's move on to the front cameras. Both Samsung and LG have stepped up their games, and the S6 has a 5 megapixel front camera, the G4 has an 8 megapixel front camera. The G4 captures a lot more detail, yes, but then again there's another but here. The S6 has a wider angle lens, meaning it captures more of the scene. Add to that, the S6 even features a wide selfie mode if you want to go wider. If you want more detail, you can always turn the camera around and shoot a rear camera selfie with the S6. Another point worth noting is that the Galaxy S6 does support 1440p videos via the front camera, whereas the G4 lets you only shoot full HD. So guys, my 2 cents here, both these phones have great cameras. There are some things that each camera does better than the other. Both have their own sets of pros and cons, but the differences are very minimal. So my honest opinion here, if you're trying to choose between these 2 phones, do not let camera be the deciding factor. Yes, cameras are important on smartphones, and both these phones are so close that I don't think it should really matter when you're choosing between the S6 and the G4. There are a lot of other things like the build quality or microSD support or the chip inside that you could base your choices on, not the cameras. Both cameras are extremely good at this point that, like I said, the differences are very minimal. So anyway, with that, we get to the end of this video. Hope you liked it. If you did, please do give this video a thumbs up. If you didn't, vote it down. Do let me know what you didn't like so that I can go back, work on it, and maybe the next time, just maybe, turn that thumbs down into a thumbs up. So I guess that's it, guys. If you haven't subscribed already, do hit that subscribe button down below. A lot more S6 and G4 coverage headed your way, including the full review of the G4, which should come out in the next 2 weeks. Next week, at least, most probably. Next week? Can I commit next week? Yeah, I'm committing to next week. 7 days, guys. Give me 7 days. The G4 review should be up. So I guess that's it for now. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, this is Ash here from C4E Tech, signing off. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye now.